Originally the Office of Urban Affairs, the Archdiocese of Hartford's Office for Catholic Social Justice Ministry has its origins in the time of American Civil Rights Movement, with inspiration from the Freedom Riders and Dr. Martin Luther King.
At that time, I was invited through a friend to go to Washington to hear the speech, I Have a Dream. 2 years after that, and I was right up front in that first visit, and the second one was 2 years later when I got a call from the Archbishop, and he said, I want you to go to Selma, and I want you to stay there for a week. And I said, well, I can't leave right now. He said, don't worry, I know how to take care of a parish. And then literally 3 years later, in 1968, he called me in, and that's when I questioned him. I said, if that's what you want, we'll start the office. But out of that came the beginning of several things, and what were the accomplishments? First of all, it tied us in, because of some background, with many other dioceses in the country. And cooperative parish sharing was ultimately the prototype that was used for Campaign for Human Development.
Timmy came up with a lot of good ideas. Perspective on this is 50 years ago, of course. But one of the ideas he had was cooperative parish sharing, which is a program that I helped implement. He came up with the idea, I implemented it when I got here. It was a way of getting parishes to share and relate to parishes across town, or parishes that they hadn't had contact with or were not close to. Building bridges as well as economic bridges. The beauty of this thing, I think, was the diversity. As I mentioned, we had a mix of people, a whole mix. We had African American, we had Hispanic, we had the religious orders, people coming together, maybe for the first time, a committee of this sort, come together to work together and allocate funds for projects.
Cooperative parish sharing continued for the past 50 years.
With regards to the Center Edge project, which really addresses what we meant by the name, the center, that was the city, where we had the disparities in housing, in good schools, in transportation, and so many issues, that poor people were dealing with, while the inner ring suburbs were now experiencing some of what the city experienced, because the outflow, was coming out into the inner ring suburbs. And without the resources and with increasing taxes, that impacted the inner ring suburbs. Whereas the outer suburbs, they were in a good position. They had the resources, but they also had the benefits of tax benefits that made their situation much better.
Bishop Peter Razaza remembers those programs, protecting the environment and people of the Archdiocese.
One of the great accomplishments was the Center Edge project. Center meaning the center cities, and the edge, the inner ring suburbs, and so on. And it was an effort initiated by the office, thanks to Joe Smythe, who was the director at the time, and Miss Pat Wallace, a brilliant person who came up with these ideas to show that there was a lot of waste because of sprawl, paving over farmland and other land in order to build up like a movie complex, stores, 2 acres for houses, going way out into the suburbs rather than building close to the city where you have the infrastructure already. The Catholic Campaign for Human Development gave a grant, not only in that case, but in many other cases, to start up these efforts in order to make a life better for people. You know, St. Irenaeus said, the glory of God is the human being fully alive. You know, that's always been a driving point in my life, and I think in Catholic social teaching as well.
And when the Elm City's congregations got together, the result was an impressive community organization that made life better for people.
As one example, 2 drug dealers started shooting outside of St. Rose School in New Haven as the kids were getting out of school. So, again, we had the organization in place. There were 17 to 20 entities as members of that. We had 450 people in the basement of St. Rose, along with the elected officials local and the chief of police and people like that. And you speak to these people beforehand so they know it's coming. But making demands that there be police protection in that neighborhood and that they do away with a crack house down the street. You know, and, if you didn't have the office, if you didn't have Catholic Campaign for Human Development, that effort would never have started. And now it's morphed into Connect. The initiative came from the Catholic Church often, you know. So my hopes for the future, that we continue to take a look at what's going on and even be proactive. And I'm sure that they have a very good board. I'm sure that they're up to that. I'm not at the board anymore, but they have my prayers.
So one of the successes I've seen in the last 10 years that I've been with the office is the empowerment of the Hispanic community. Nationwide, Hispanics have been responsible for the growth in the Catholic Church. And our previous director, Joe Smythe, paid attention to that trend and hired a parish social ministry coordinator who could really spend the time working with that community. And so because we had that position, we were able to spend the time with that community, build strong relationships, be very respectful of their language and culture. We brought Catholic social teaching to them and talked about parish social ministry and how it's important for the parish to engage in outreach and ministry. And we also provided a lot of leadership development. And through that leadership development, we are able to enable the Hispanic community to really grow their own social ministry activities. The office has always dealt with poverty, and we continue to do so. But now we've formed very mission-oriented teams to help us to address the impacts on poverty, such as the migrant communities, the human trafficking victims, climate change, which has an impact on poverty. So my vision for the diocese is that we all can embrace Catholic social teaching and Catholic social justice ministry. We'll be judged by how we care for the least among us, and that should be important to us. I hope in the future that more people in the parish will not be afraid of social justice. That social justice really is just about creating a society where we honor everybody's human dignity, and that's what we're all called to do.